Hey, can I have a moment of your time? No? Okay. But what if I told you I was going to talk about one of the greatest games ever made? Okay, one of the greatest games ever made. Okay, but before we get started, here's the part of the video where big YouTubers would stop and tell you to buy a product. But I'm not going to do that. Don't look at my sub count. I just want to say, how's your day? Good? Bad? Okay? Let me know down below. Anyways, onto the video. I wasn't born, but if I was, this would have blown my socks off. You want to know what games were announced this year? Spider-Man 2, Doom 3, Half-Life 2. Oh yeah, what else? Halo 2. Bungie showed up to this E3 with a crazy cool demo and a lot of confidence. It had better graphics, a huge city, new weapons, and more of that sweet combat people expected from Halo. E3 ended and Bungie went to their studio to develop their game. There's about 10 months till the game releases, and Bungie doesn't have anything playable for the original Xbox hardware. All of their time was put into making a cool demo that wouldn't run right on the original hardware. See, when displaying the game, they only let devs show off the demo, because if they didn't, people would find out that if they didn't follow a specific path, the game would lag terribly and basically be unplayable. So with only 10 months left before release, Bungie decided to scrap the entire game they've had worked on so far, start over, which caused the company and all its employees to crunch, and crunch hard. Somehow the game was released on time. And is it good? Oh, it's amazing. The guns were awesome, the online was awesome, and the graphics were phenomenal, which leads me to my next part of this video. Halo 2 has one of the most divisive story modes in gaming. Its campaign has you fighting the Covenant on Earth to try to stop them from destroying humanity. It's up to you, the Master Chief, to stop them. Is what all the advertisements said, while the actual game is more like, hey, you fight 2 missions on Earth, then leave and never return. A lot of people weren't happy with this, and it didn't help that the game development was super short, causing them to cut a big chunk of the story. But even though a big chunk of the story was cut, it was still a great story, which leads me to a part here where I'm kind of going to spoil the game, so if you mind having a 2004 release game getting spoiled for you, I guess skip to the time card that I might leave in the description. Alright, well, spoilers. Story has you, the Master Chief, chasing down the Covenant and stopping them from activating the Halo rings. You blast your way through the Covenant, grunts, elites, jackal. It doesn't matter, the Chief will stop at nothing. Then, just as you get comfortable, boom, you are now one of the elites, the Arbiter, one of the coolest Halo characters in my opinion. You go back and forth between characters, but it's with the Arbiter that we learn that the leaders of the Covenant, the Prophets, are lying to him and his people. That the rings don't lead to the end of a sacred journey, but actually lead to death and destructions of thousands of planets and species. As a kid, I didn't understand any of this. I just thought, haha, gun go pew, I'm gonna go run through and shoot all these dudes. Growing up though, I kind of have a really deep appreciation for the way they wrote the story, how it actually leads older fans with a more sense of like weight, that this universe actually has its flaws and has its corruption, while kid me was just like neck go snap when talking about enemies. But hearing that they have like a whole culture and have like their own thing is like really cool, and I'm really appreciate that they really went into lore. As I grow up, I get it more into like nerdy stuff like Star Wars and Halo and Marvel and all this stuff. Like it's more mainstream, yes, but it's still like learning about the history of everything that really like I enjoy doing. So actually having that in Halo 2 really is a cool feature, I guess. Cool part of it. But anyways, after learning this, the Arbiter teams up with the humans and stops the Covenant. The only problem is they win the battle, but the Covenant leaders get away, and that's the end of the game. It ends on a cliffhanger, with the Master Chief hopping on a Forerunner ship and chasing after them, which leads to Halo 3. Growing up, I never really understood the cliffhanger. I just thought it was a really cool ending. I kind of just was like, Master Chief's gonna go kick their butts, and like that's just it. Like the story could have ended there, and like 7-year-old me would have been like, this is perfectly fine. But growing up and actually like playing through the games, being able to play them back to back is really cool. how the story connects and how everything. I think if I understood the story when I played it the first time, I think I probably would have been annoyed like most gamers were at the time. But playing it later, and first of all having Halo 3 that right there, like not too much longer after I beat this game, and also not fully understanding that weight of the game, kind of just led me with like a, oh, this is neat kind of ending kind of feel. But I could understand where a lot of gamers got mad with this. One part of this game that gamers enjoyed more than they got upset with is the way this game controls is amazing. Not only do you get the ability to punch your grunt into next week, you also get to use really cool and fun weapons. Halo 2 builds upon Halo CE's weapon pool. Not only do you have the guns from before, minus the AR, but now you have new weapons this time. One of my favorites is the energy sword, able to cut down opponents in half of the time it would take to shoot them to death. It also had some really cool features that let you break the game, and most of the time, game-breaking weapons kind of lead to a less fun experience for everybody. But I feel like in the case of Halo 2, the clunkiness, if you will, kind of led to a lot more memories and a lot more fun messing around in the game. And what's really cool is that every gun has its place within the game sandbox, making it that not one gun is overpowered. They all have their place. So far, I've been mostly just talking about gameplay, how the game was made, and all that stuff. But now it's time to get into my personal opinion and my nostalgia and how I grew up playing this game. And if you don't want to learn about that, get out of here. Get out of here. Okay, gone? Alright, let's get on to that. While everybody was having a blast with this game, I was a baby. Probably pooping and peeing everywhere. I don't really know. But one faithful day, when I was about 3 or 4, I got to play this wonderfully awesome game that Bungie made. My family went to a friend's wedding that my dad and his brothers were in. They decided once they were ready to have some fun by hooking up an Xbox to a projector and playing Halo 2. This blew my mind. I got to play a few rounds and didn't do half bad. Looking back, I could tell they were probably going easy on me. But that doesn't really matter. My dad later got an Xbox with Halo 2. But growing up, I wasn't really allowed to play it. Instead, I got kids games like Cars and other racing-esque games. Not going to lie though, Cars slapped. And I played that game to death. Literally. I played it so much that the disc stopped working. While this is happening, while my dumb little bud is playing Cars, we moved a lot growing up, and I kind of had to share a room with my siblings. But once we finally moved into our last house, I had my own room, and it was awesome. Once moved in, I got my own Lego table, some Matchbox cars, but eventually fell in love with video games when my dad gifted me an old CRT, an original Xbox, and a copy of Halo 2. He upgraded to the 360, so he didn't really need it anymore. I think I was around the age of 7 or 8 when I got handed down the Xbox. Either way, I was ecstatic to play. I had a really cool setup. I used an old entertainment center as a dresser. I had my clothes in the bottom and the TV on top with the Xbox. I remember playing that game to death. Sometimes I would end up, when I'm supposed to go to bed, I would stay up and just play Halo. One thing that I never got past though was the flood level in Halo 2. I remember sitting at the end of my bed at like 10 o'clock at night, which for like 7-year-old me was way past my bedtime. And just sitting there and just being in awe of the level and how awesome this game was. And now when I go back and play this game, I kind of just remember those memories. I kind of just go back kind of like a nostalgia trip, and I really enjoy playing the game because of it. As you already know, I played this game religiously growing up, and I loved it. And you threw friends into the mix with playing this game, forget it. 10 out of 10 could play this forever. My friends and I played this game to death. Every time someone came over, we played Halo 2. And most of the time, I would win because I literally played nothing but this game. But occasionally when our friends win, it was fun. We'd spend hours roaming around maps, having firefights with each other, and just enjoying the game. And fortunately enough, I had the DLC maps, so we could go looking and searching for hidden Easter eggs or secrets around maps for hours. Because upon the regular maps, which were iconic, I also got a whole bunch of other new maps. So many of these maps are iconic to the Halo franchise, and they're being remade in the new games today. But I think I'm always going to have a nostalgia for the original ones. I probably have more hours in this game than any other game that I own, and I still get sucked into it from time to time. I know a lot of people who play the game now, if people do end up playing the game after watching this video, you'll probably be like, I don't have any nostalgia for this. I want to play on the new graphics, and be like, wow, this is a cool game, I guess. But I think it hits different for me because I grew up playing it, and being the only kid in my family interested in video games and sitting for hours and playing them because I thought they were really cool and interesting way of like interacting with a whole different world. I think that's what gave me a different appreciation for this game growing up, and I'm really thankful for it.